Yeah.
Two.
Okay.
One is I have a donation, which we'll get to in new business, that's fine. And then, did you wanna review the cell phone thing? You wanna put it off for another month? Since Ronnie's not here? Well, it's not pressing. We can put,
I haven't read it.
Yeah. Alright, we'll put it off then.
okay.
Okay.
Cornerstone, under committees.
Okay. Have you speak first. Okay. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Privilege of the floor. Let's move on. Does anybody have any changes to the minutes of the last meeting? Nobody has any changes. Okay. May I have a motion to accept the minutes for the January 13th meeting? Motion made by and seconded by Norma. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The Treasurer's report, Jack.
Oh, thank you, Keith. Good evening, everyone. Got the report through January, which is month 7 of the fiscal year. The month of January, the payroll was below budget. Both payrolls, where you see for the month it was almost 1,700 under budget. So now year to date, we're only about 1,400 and change over, and we know the reason for that. So with the overtime, which is saving us another line. So really, if it weren't for that, we'd be running under budget on the salary line. So we're doing well there. The books, I would say again, just assume that we're gonna be on target for the year. I entered a Baker and Taylor the other day, so some charges were hit for December, but there's still a lot more to be entered. So just assume that that'll be, on, not really 11,000 under. And everything else is up to date. And grand total spending of total expenses of 795,000, budget 802, so 7,000 under. But then when you add in the books, we're really right on. We're slightly over, but we already incurred the being over big time on the retirement for the year, and that won't happen again. So when you factor that in, we're really probably running slightly under year to date, adding in all those different factors.
By end of year.
By end of year, right, maybe a little bit under, because we're not gonna have another big hit like we did with the retirement, which is, if it weren't for that, we would really be under budget. And we should be getting our last tax check in probably the next 3 or 4 weeks. I think in early March or mid-March, we should get our last 10%. And as you can see, we have 582,000 roughly, so I think we're right where we figured we would be. And after the February loan payment, which we did last week, the loan balance is now 92,291.69. I think there's 11 payments to go, so almost there. Yeah. Yep. So we're right on track and keeping an eye on things, and more or less that's about it.
Anybody have any questions for Jack? No questions, then I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
I'll make that motion.
All right, second, Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Director's report.
Good evening, everyone.
Should I stick with? Okay. All right. Great. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Jack.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night,
Thank you. Bye now. Thanks.
Well, we were closed a couple days. Last week? Was it? Oh, God.
Monday.
It's a snowy blur.
Monday, Wednesday?
I think so.
Yeah, Monday,
Okay.
Wednesday last week.
I guess the biggest thing of the month is this is the annual report time, the state report. It has to be submitted every year. This is where we do the business about signing off on what's it called again? It's been a while. Variance
the
variance
variance,
request,
right.
right. Just started collecting the data now. It's due in 2 weeks or a week and a half. So everything's been sort of off because of the weather, but we'll get it in. Jack does half of it, the financial part, and he's already been to RCLS to be updated on any changes. And the hardest part for me is just collecting the statistics from everybody, but we'll get it done on time. Let's see, another big news. I contacted the Goshen Central School District. I talked to a number of people there, and as it turns out, they generally do not appoint someone to the position of library liaison unless there's been a spike in relations between the school and the library. And they said that they would be more than willing to appoint one if we felt one was necessary. So you guys let me know what you'd like to do about that.
When do they have a liaison?
It sounds like it's sort of
Sort of.
a position
We need a library liaison, you take care of that this
Alright.
time.
when they're.
I think that's kind
On an as-needed basis.
Yeah.
I think the person that was in that place, that was left over from a lot of the negotiations around the last push for the new building. They must have had some back and forth with the
Well,
school.
I would think that it would be an ongoing relationship, as we both work together, with our local schools here and the programs. It's unfortunate they feel that way, that only as needed. I don't understand
I don't
that
understand why
part
it's
of it
not always
either.
I think
needed.
The other
Yeah,
the feeling I
we
got
should
was the
foster something.
well, the person that was there for a while is no longer on the board, so maybe that particular individual showed some interest in the position, and just no one stepped up to do it. That could be part of it.
Okay.
But I'd be happy to talk to them about, asking them if they could put somebody in to appoint somebody that we could.
No, I don't think it's gonna be a lot of heavy lifting for anybody, so it wouldn't be,
We're here to help if programs are,
right, to have a
think
contact
should be-
person, a go-to person on the school board is useful.
Well, how much, I mean,
Well, this would, we're not gonna really do a lot of interacting with
Yeah,
them, so
but-
it's not like,
who do we usually interact with in terms of like, well,
Bob
who,
Miller,
well, we
bonded their
interact with
business
Bob
plans.
Miller,
Cindy Brown.
when we've
Cindy
been
Brown's
told
the main
to.
contact, really. for-
Right, but she's not on the board.
Right.
but what about for programs or for,
It's all local. But
Well,
The
Michelle's
who does-
like
who does
visits
Michelle-
schools
Yeah,
and-
Michelle does,
The
she
principals,
goes to
no?
the
She
principals.
does
Yeah.
the
Exactly.
principals
Directly.
for the schools, right, not
So-
really deal with the board.
I
In a
think
sense,
once
we
we
do
get-
have a relationship with the
We
schools.
have a relationship with the
and-
schools, but not actually board to board.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it sounded
think-
to me the board is more for formal situations, legal situations and such. But as far as the programming, and we have a fairly close relationship with them. We're children's and the YA folks are in the schools a lot, and
That's what it sounds like from Michelle's reports.
Yeah.
I think
it's a pretty
that
good-
perhaps once we get closer to the project, that maybe we would want someone to talk with.
Well, that's why I would think it's a good idea just to have the structure in place before, do you know what I mean, to already have a relationship and not
Mhm.
build it as, you know what
Yeah.
I mean, already have it all in place.
Yeah.
And then when it's
A
needed, it's
working
there.
relationship,
Right.
sure.
Well, the only advantage to waiting would be that if we are sort of moving the project along and people are aware of it, the representative might be one who's interested in that particular, and might have some expertise
Yeah.
in the area of new construction.
Yeah, but there's more than just our new building project that I would think warrant a relationship. I don't know.
Right.
Okay.
It's up to them
Underlie.
to appoint somebody.
Mm.
We
Yeah,
can,
but I guess they
Yeah,
don't
I
feel
mean-
it's
they haven't said no.
necessary.
No,
They
they
said
sounded-
if
they
we
were
need
open
one,
to it,
they'll
sure. They
do.
said just
Okay, so
give 'em a
when
call
we
and
need
we'll-
one, we need somebody to talk to on the board. Cindy, can you
Right.
pass that along, and somebody can get a hold of whoever
Okay.
we deem. Do we have a liaison for them?
I was just thinking the same thing, do we have
Do
a
we?
school board
We
liaison?
don't appoint one, no, right?
No.
So if
We have a
can make
community.
that,
Really?
It's been Matt, make Matt talk.
So it's, you know, once we
Well,
have something to negotiate,
Would
we
that be a
can,
community resource responsibility
it
Which-
could.
or on our end?
On
I
our
mean,
end.
would that be a community
Mhm.
resources?
Yep, sort of fits in there.
That's what I was thinking.
Mhm.
Because again, it wouldn't be a huge job, it would be
As needed.
as needed.
See? We go back to those
Right.
words.
Just so we know who to point to, yeah, it's you take care of that.
That's right.
That's
Okay.
pretty much it.
Yeah.
Well, it would seem like if they don't appoint somebody, it's kind of wide open. Like if you know somebody on the board, you could talk to them. Any of
I
us could
guess
talk to them
so, right.
directly instead of.
I think that might be an advantage.
That's
Well,
true
Mhm.
too, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right, because, you know, we've probably each done that.
Mhm.
Okay.
So if it's
Alright,
not if
Thanks
not
for
pressing.
calling.
Sure,
Yeah.
of course.
Oh, that's good to know.
Okay, moving on. Long range plan. Yes, our meeting with Paul Mays is canceled and rescheduled. What did I say? February 19th. They're hoping to meet. Right.
Hopefully
And
it
Unless it,
snows.
unless it snows.
That's all it doesn't
And
snow.
would the time be the same, or you
Yes.
can move it back? or
No, it's-
Yeah,
that we
the
have
same
it-
time and everything.
Still be 2 to 4?
Yep.
The date again, please?
The 19th, February 19th.
Human Resources Administration of the Public Library is coming up March 5th. That's a continuation of the series of classes I've taken with Gerald Nichols through LIU's
Okay.
Advanced Director Training Program.
Now, did we already approve you?
Yes,
Already don't.
we did, right? We approved you.
In advance, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good to go.
Good.
Thank you.
Good, you're
Excellent. Public computers are hopping as usual, David reported.
covered.
And under technology, I guess I should bring up an interesting thing that we occasionally look at our databases and sort of try to assess what's being used, what's not being used. And probably 70% of the databases we have come through New York State money. So there's no, you can't add or drop. It's just what the state gives you. Then we have a few that it's up to my discretion, and like museum passes, I review them every year, 2 years. I mean, there's no science to it. I just kind of get a sense of what people are using, what they're not using, what's seems to be popular or helpful or germane or whatever. So over the last couple of months, a number of interesting things occurred with some of the business around databases and the costs. There have been some what do you call those? People sort of underbidding one another in certain areas and such. And one of those databases was Reference USA, which tracks demographics and it's usually used by entrepreneurs looking to do market research and look into the viability of putting a particular business in an area and seeing. And there's a couple databases, three that are competing in that realm. The best of them, to my knowledge, is this product called Reference USA, which last time I checked was about $2,100. Don't quote me on that, but something roughly in that area for our size population. And then suddenly it dropped, and I was able to keep them dropping it down under 1,000, $995 for the whole kit and caboodle. So I decided to purchase that, and I also I should have probably, the second one I purchased, I should have gotten a while back, since we're the county seat. We often are asked for legal forms and such, and we usually buy these NOLO books and you make photocopies out of them and whatever. But there's a nice Gale product, it's probably their flagship database, called Gale Legal Forms. But pick that up as well. And on the side they threw in a children's database called National Geographic World and Peoples or something. So the whole bundle is roughly 27 or 25. I had some wiggle room because a couple databases that we were paying for have been picked up by the novel New York State system. But after the dust settled, I realized I was going to have to cut something somewhere. And so I looked through our list, and the only database I could find where there seemed to be some duplication was with a genealogical product. We have two. One is Ancestry.com, which is sadly only available in-house. That's just the way that they work. At Library Edition, you have to come to the library to use it. Ancestry is probably the Cadillac of those genealogical databases, because from what I understand, a lot of their information is proprietary. The other database we had side by side with it was Heritage Quest, which is remotely accessible but not as robust as Ancestry. So I talked to Ann a little bit, the local historian, and tried to get a sense of what she felt about possibly dropping one of the two of them. And she said Heritage Quest had sort of lost usership, I guess is the word, in the library, which makes sense because side by side, Ancestry is sort of the gold standard, and so people were choosing that, and Heritage Quest wasn't getting used as often. So I contacted Heritage Quest and asked if I could have, this is a long-winded story, but statistics for the last couple of years. We've had it for 2 years, and I saw a definite decline of about 25% usage on Heritage Quest from the first year we had it to this year. So I decided, that'd probably be, out of what I had available to me, probably be the best thing to cut in order to stay within our budget. It's like museum passes. You always wrestle with, you get the Guggenheim, and then the MoMA people are, they want, and then you get MoMA next year and the Guggenheim. We only have finite dollars, so we have to sometimes make these decisions. Well, not soon after cutting off access to that, I got a couple rapid emails from intense genealogists that were unhappy because they can't get to the library, and they want to be able to use this product to continue their research. Which I understand, and it sort of was a tough decision. I knew that something had to go, and it seemed to me, given as I say, the circumstances, probably the best choice. On the other side of that, I right after I picked up, I won't name names here, but I got a letter from somebody about Reference USA, just goes to show you how this works. He said, since the day you called me to tell me my request for Reference USA, and his wasn't the only, we had a lot over the years, it's a very popular database, was approved and downloaded, I have been on my home laptop playing with the data. What a treasure trove. It's exactly what I needed. In my line of business, I will be using these records for market research, demographic studies, prospective client identification, sales opportunities, address, phone verifications, and economic evaluations. Any entrepreneur will find this resource a great asset. If you have the capability to advertise this database, do it. Advertising it. Many businessmen, researchers, students, teachers will find these records to be priceless. Once again, I thank you sincerely for your managerial decision and implementation of Reference USA. I knew that it was a good database because I was familiar with it from back up at Saratoga, and it was probably one of the most popular. But it was always very expensive. Every year I'd look into it, and every year it wasn't. And this year it came down, so time was right to jump. Anyway, now I feel a little remiss because I feel I've let down some of these genealogists that have a harder time getting into this. At the time I realized one was remote, one wasn't. It just didn't occur to me with all the rest of the the algebra going in to make the decision. I just didn't think about remote versus not remote. So where am I? So we're basically, I think we're basically, that line is at its limit. And to any genealogists interested in what might unfold, the best I can do is check with the friends who fund the Ancestry and see if perhaps they'll be generous enough to add Heritage Quest back in. I can't promise, but I can run it by them and see if that's. I still feel like I made the right decision, and it's unfortunate that in the library world, as I say, finite dollars, infinite amount of what people want, and there's always going to be that kind of thing. What we've tried to do to at least what's that utilitarian? The greatest happiness for the greatest number. So we try to, given the fact that we don't have an infinite amount of money, we try to revolve through these every couple of years, take a look, and and I, as a librarian, the last thing I want to do is get information out of people's hands, and so I will look into that possibility. Can't guarantee it, but just so any of our viewership knows that that these decisions are they're made with a certain amount of time and weight, and there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just off the top of my head. All right.
What is the fee on Heritage?
It's, I believe, around $800. Around $800. Now the next step that the library has to do, and this is something I think across the board that needs to be done, is to get these databases you know, not in people's faces, that's a little rude, but, you know, really let people know they're here, because this is a perennial problem. It comes up in those classes with Jerry Nichols, who half the time says, get rid of your expensive databases, you're wasting money, no one's using them. That wouldn't go that far. I mean, that's hyperbole, but it's there's some truth. It's hard. So when you hear, so in a way, to hear these people come out of the woodwork suddenly, I was kind of like, wow, that's nice. You know, we actually, you know, people are using
Actually
this.
use our products.
Because I can tell you some of the novel databases which we don't pay for. I mean, I'll go in and take a look at statistics, and it's like pathetic. I mean, we had 5 hits, and it was probably 3 of them were me. You know what I mean? It's just difficult. Well, you know, because people are so used to, you know, one-stop shopping with I would say Amazon. The Amazon model, Amazon and Google. I mean, you know, and anything that requires you to click off a box here and then, you know, it's like, well, it's too much. I'm going back to Google. You know, it's a shame, you know, because the information contained in these databases is paid for information. I mean, it's magazines, journals, newspapers, you know, that just has the information has been ported into a digital format. It's not stuff you can get for free online. Everyone thinks so. You can get a little abstract, but, you know, if you go to your local library, there's the whole report, you know. It's just getting people aware of that. Genealogy databases are very popular because it's in right now, so it makes sense that people would be, you know, aware of the fact that I cut off the supply.
Do we know from either Ancestry or Heritage Quest how many of our patrons use them?
Heritage Quest, they don't give you number of patrons, but number of like hits, I guess. You know, just people coming in.
Coming in from us.
Hits from
our
outside.
page.
Right, because they have to be to get to use our Heritage Quest. They have to do 22812. They have to have that
Okay.
library card number. So I don't know, it was something like 800 the first year, and it was down to 535 this year.
But it
Hits.
could be
But it's
100
probably
people.
Well,
Once they
yeah,
start, they
okay.
go back to it
Right.
again and
Yeah.
again.
it's tough to tell because you can't track IPs or anything. All you can see is that, you know.
How many times
Right.
somebody with a
Right.
number opened
Do you
that door?
think the person that wrote that
No, well, that's always,
compliment would allow us to quote
Oh,
in the newsletter?
well, I
Because,
think so. Actually, he's the one. He told me to bring it to you guys to talk to. So yeah, I will.
So it might be a way to advertise it,
Sure.
plus advertise, you know, what the library does for
Definitely.
entrepreneurs and others.
Yeah, I'll
Facebook it.
yeah, I'll ask him if he minds.
And we don't have a poster that lists our databases, the databases that are accessible as a patron.
We have a tab on the website.
We have-
I know on the
yes.
website, but, you
Yeah.
know, for those that do come into the library, which some may not have a computer at home, they don't know
Right,
about
right.
such things. But,
Yeah, we can. You know, it's always space is an issue, but all of these vendors are more than willing to send you reams of
Promotional
PR
stuff,
stuff.
yeah.
You know, posters and you know handouts and such. You know.
It might not be a bad idea to have it.
There's probably also ways just to target, and like I don't know, like bring, you know, like alert the chamber that we now have Reference USA. A lot
Yeah,
of people,
yeah,
that
yeah.
you know, they find places where it's really going
Where
to, you
it's
know,
not
be useful.
accessible.
Or Gale Legal Forms. You know, I don't even think that I caught. It was funny. I wasn't sure we had a law library anymore because of the problem with it, but she's still over there. You know, somehow, you know, leave some literature over there for people that, you know, if you live in Goshen, you can get this, you know, this stuff through here. I mean, there are, it's just the you know, the people power to get out there and drop stuff off. But there's definitely some stuff we can do.
That's what we're missing with the size of this library is a bulletin board that we
It's-
can
I know,
post
I
these
know.
things.
Wall space in general.
Yeah.
We have
Oh, yeah.
none upstairs.
What we have is the end of aisles for
Right,
the
instead
job
of walls,
postings,
yeah.
and but that's about it. So
But I've been talking with the reference staff and Eleanor, and we definitely, you know, are going to try to make some strong efforts in getting that stuff. I mean, even once in a while in the newsletter, we'll highlight one of them, and you know. But I think the best way is probably targeting somehow, getting literature right into places where people that would be interested in that particular database.
What about on the website having something like, almost like a game? It could be in a box or something. How would you find the number of cars sold in Orange County over the last 5 years? Question mark. And then answer is, go to Reference USA and
Put
check
a
such
link
and
in there.
such.
Right, that's not a bad idea.
And, just keep changing the question.
Right, right.
And,
Something to kind of pull them in.
yeah, they would start to say, hey, this is kind of interesting to see how to use that stuff.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this.
I think we can talk about that, right, David?
oh, there it is.
Yeah, good idea. Anything, yeah, if
So
you-
we don't have, we have Heritage USA?
we
No,
now have
in the-
Ancestry,
We have
Ancestry, that's what I.
which is, right, is
Because they're the ones with the big commercials with the
Right,
big
That's the one people
splashy.
hear about.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. They should need to get a commercial, that's the problem.
And
Anyway,
the Orange County Genealogical Society doesn't carry any databases?
I don't believe so. I can double check with Ann. I don't know, I don't think they do. Fairly expensive, and they're kind of, but I'll ask. Maybe that's the first thing I did when I got that email, I was surprised actually to get it. I was like, remote access. So I went to New York Public Library, hoping, because anybody that lives in New York State can get a card from, and you don't have to show up there. You can just do it online, and they'll send you a card from New York Public Library, and then you have access to a bunch of databases that we don't have here. That
Mm-hmm.
you know, unfortunately, Heritage was one that you had to go to particular branch libraries to use it. I don't know why. It's funny. They just must have different contracts with different areas of the state and what they'll allow. And I was talking to Ella Mary just before the meeting about how that this whole issue with database access and the costs and stuff is another one of these things, somewhat like the e-books, where it just seems like there's a real injustice. There should be a way to organize this on a state level, where there's not all this duplication, all this tax dollars being spent. Where there should be a way to make this fair, so that everyone that lives in New York State should have access to. The novel program does that, but the stuff that people are really after, you end up having to pay out of your own pocket. So you're.
Tina, what is the novel program?
That's from New York State.
New York State Library, and it's stuff. Most of their databases are aggregate databases that collect journal, periodical, newspaper articles. I don't know what else is on that's their main thing. One Track Gale. There's a bunch of them. There's probably 6 or 7 or 8. I haven't looked at them since I've been on the reference desk, unfortunately. But most of it's stuff like that. It's not the specific, information like what reference USA does.
So they have abstracts, or they have?
They
or
actually have
do
full text. Yeah,
they have full text. Okay.
Yeah. In fact, well, here's an interesting example, and then I'll get off this. Yes, I'm sure it's a novel database. Gale, one file, I forget the name, I think it's one file, makes available to anybody that has a Goshen Library card, consumer reports. But, it's buried in there. It's, you have to tick off consumer reports, you have to sort of, so there's a little work. So when Casey was here, who was pretty good with computers, Casey and David, and I believe I have to say for once it was my idea, but they did it, were able to make a separate link just for, it took some work, but just so that you can look, and now you can just go straight to consumer reports, because that's pretty, people, that's what they really want. They don't want to have to monkey around with a big, technical people do, but your average person gets on there, they want to, they don't want to have to tick off boxes and figure out from 1988 to 1990, they don't want to do all that stuff, they just want to say, oh, click on consumer reports and search it, the most recent will be the first one on there, all just like Google, just like Amazon. So as great as those databases are, I think it's just there's a little bit of a curve in learning how to use them, So anyway, on to other concerns. We've had a leak. Our new roof is leaking.
Oh,
Yeah, in the same place, in the bathroom. It was leaking Friday anyway, and I called the roofers, and they got back to me early this morning. So Danny and I are looking into it. It wasn't leaking anymore today. It's very strange. Danny was here in the middle of the night, and it was 15 degrees, and it was leaking like a sieve. Come daytime, and it's above 35, it stopped totally, dry as a bone. The roofer, when I called, when he got back to me, he said basically, yeah, the same thing's happening everywhere. He said it's an ice dam, right? So I don't know, he said just wait till the snow is off the roof, and then we'll have someone go up and look around and see if there's damage or what the story is. But until that point, whereupon Danny said, no, call him again tomorrow and say, Danny actually made a beautiful, I couldn't believe it, this cleared a whole path out right where a ladder's going to go. He even widened it, so there's a path, and then this wide thing, and then it closes up again so that someone can go out there. And he said, I made it easy for him. They're going to get up there. He said, and he's smart. He said, we're not going to go up there and monkey around, because then if something, they're going to say, well, you guys were stepping on this. You got an ice thing up here. You may have damaged something. He said, don't go. Let them be the next ones to investigate, so. So the fun never ends. And then I get here this morning and water is coming up through the floor again in the bathroom. I mean, up between the
Oh.
cracks in the tiles. It's just seeping in like in puddles, so.
The
Wow.
upstairs bathroom?
No, down here.
Right.
Down here?
Water, groundwater, yep.
The water table's up? Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of.
Slowed down since this morning. I went in there a few times today and I sopped it
Oh,
up.
frozen pipe somewhere in the drain system.
So,
Seems
but the weather is pretty, I mean, you know,
pretty horrendous.
it is.
No, the snow has to melt.
Yeah, it's gotta go somewhere. I guess our basement's the place it's going. Yeah.
I think that's it, 'cause I
Any
have
more
something,
business?
so now I know, I'm sorry. Well, the friends have their, trivia contest coming up, maybe, I put you on here, Jim, you're always the sort of, if you wanna talk a little about that, that's about all I have to say, unless you have questions.
I didn't bring any, you want me to talk about that now, or you want?
Yeah,
I didn't bring, my notes on it, but a lot of people have been doing a lot of work, and, there are people donating food and
Delancey's donated appetizers,
and appetizers, and
somebody else.
I think Hal's is it Hal's doing the,
Howell's is doing the catering,
the main meal?
yep. And
Can
someone, the diner's done desserts,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
can you
people
still
are
get
pushing
tickets
in. Tickets are still available.
through, and how do you get tickets? Is it
There's a
contact-
phone number that's, where's the flyer?
You're still
It's,
doing
it's
Facebook
Yvonne's
Live?
phone number, right?
Yes,
Yeah, it's
you can do it
Yvonne.
right through the Goshen Library website too, you can, but either way,
Okay.
call
I
them.
heard it's filling up fast,
That's good.
yeah.
The only other thing that I wanted to report for friends is that,
I have to check it after the meeting. Sorry.
We
that's-
hear
that's the
some
dripping.
water.
Speaking of water,
I get
groundwater,
nervous now,
Yeah.
very little drip.
we're hearing dripping.
Do you hear it?
Dripping
Yeah.
over there someplace.
It's the heat.
I don't,
I hear the heat hissing, and then there's
Okay.
also.
Well, there's that well right there, that little window well, maybe it's,
Yeah. Keep
It's-
telling
it's
yourself that.
nothing. It's just nothing.
you're not hearing bells, are you?
Just let's ignore it. It'll go away. No,
Yeah.
Throbbing though. Yeah. Chirping.
But you remember the Christmas ornament that, was being sold at Linda's? She gave the friends a check for $262.
Wow.
Very
For
nice.
161 that were sold, and she has a waiting list of over 150.
Wow.
So there'll be another $300 coming, because we get $2 for each one she sells. I think she could probably extend the waiting list if she wanted to. People are saying to her, I only bought one, and I want one for my daughter and my son now,
I grabbed mine.
and it's a big secret as to which building will be on the medallion.
Yeah.
Next year.
Has she made a decision yet?
She is sort of playing coy about that. She, I think it's down to, she sort of implied that it was between two buildings and she hadn't quite decided, but she said, I'm not telling people what it is when I decide, not now. So, it's kind of fun,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of money.
Very nice.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you,
That's
Linda.
great.
Are there any other committee reports?
Cornerstone.
Well, yeah, unfinished business, well,
Whatever you want.
okay. Well,
Oh, I guess I'll go
right now, you're on.
Oh, wow. Speak on the spot. What am I gonna do? Oh no, I don't have that up. So before you go to the awesome trivia contest, we have a show on March 1st, which we're putting together in 3 weeks. It'll be great. No, it's actually gonna be really cool. We've decided to call our very first show, we're calling it History Alive. So what we're gonna do is bring back some of the old favorites, Einstein, Ty Cobb, Paul Robeson, Amelia Earhart, Jane Austen, and also bring in some new faces, Orson Welles, Leia and Ruth from the Old Testament, Peter from the New Testament. Who else is new? I don't have my notebook with me. We've got 12 people playing 14 different characters, so we have a lot of really interesting things. So it's sort of a like a refresher course. Like these are what we do, these are what we're known for, and We actually last year had to bring Einstein back because people were, when are you bringing it back? When are you bringing it back? And we were like, do you want us to? And we were almost rolled out every show. So we have kind of reached back into all the scripts we had and picked some of our favorite historical figures. And so we're doing a night of monologues that kind of tie them all together. For example, Orson Welles, and we're also doing Edwin Booth. They were both Shakespearean actors. Edwin Booth is, of course, the brother of John Wilkes Booth. So sort of how everything ties in. And Jane Austen was inspired by William Shakespeare. Jane Austen is a woman writer, and so then we're doing Crazy Bet from Sisters Under the Skin, and the women and how they were pioneers in their own way. And then we do Paul Robeson, who's the first black man to do Othello, and how Crazy Bet did the Underground Railroad ties into his story about his journey with race in the early 1920s. So they all sort of flow together, so it's going to be really, really interesting. So I will be doing the narration for that, and then Ken will be directing, and we have a couple of new faces and a couple of old faces. A lot of people you'll recognize from Shakespeare in the Park or from other shows you've seen. So like Joe Barra is coming back and playing Einstein. He played Einstein originally. Evelyn Albino is coming back and doing Jane Austen. So we're doing some similar or some recent things like Sisters, and some really old things like Devil and Daniel Webster, which was 2009 maybe. It goes back quite a bit. So that's exciting. We do have our season. We're doing this History Alive. Our next show is 2 by Tennessee Williams. Because we work in conjunction with the library, we've decided that for each season we'd like to highlight a author or a playwright. So Tennessee Williams' most famous work is Cat in the Hotton Roof, or one of his most famous, I should say. But we don't have the budget nor the cast to do that, so we picked 2 one-acts and we're putting them together. We're doing The Case of the Crushed Petunias and The Long Goodbye. So it'll be 2 one-acts back to back. Each has 4 people, and the 2 leads will play the supporting roles in the second show, and they'll flip-flop, so you'll get to see people who you've never really seen act before act together, which will be really exciting. Our third show is, I want to make sure I get all of these right. So that's March.
Is the March 1st a one night only?
No, it is March 1st, 2nd, 8th, and 9th. They're all matinees, 2 p.m. Every single one is a matinee. And then we're doing the 2 by Tennessee, which is the last weekend of April and the first 2 weekends in May. So our last show is Mother's Day. Just so that is the next thing will be Shakespeare in the Park. We're doing As You Like It, which is super exciting. And if I'm still around, you will see me playing Rosalind. I'm not directing this year, I actually have to be in it, so I'm really excited about that. Then in September, we're doing Crimes of the Heart, which was made into a movie with Jessica Lange, Sissy Spacek, and Sam Shepard. So you can take that movie. It's actually a very good adaptation of the play. It's about 3 women, their grandfather dies, they come home, and they have to deal with their lives. And then November, we are doing The Interrogation of Nathan Hale. And so that will be very, very interesting. That's okay. Bye, Jim. So that's our season. I do have a season flyer with all the dates and the times on it. I can get that to you guys at the next meeting. I just designed it last week, so it still needs a little bit of tweaking. I think that's everything. Did I miss anything? No? She wasn't listening to me. What else is new?
Any chance that any of those productions will be held at a handicap accessible venue?
We would like to do that. We just need to find someone to sponsor it, because we will have to take down everything in the theater and transfer it there. And since we already have our dates in line for the show, so for example, History Alive, we wanted to bring that to Glenarden. We're already booked March 1st, 2nd, 8th, and 9th, so we'd have to have another weekend where our actors would be available, our tech people would be available, and we have to sort of figure it out. But we definitely need someone to sponsor it, so that we could have a little bit of income coming toward us as well, because we are giving up. And I don't think we would. I mean, it depends if we would charge admission per se if we're bringing it to them, but we would definitely need some sort of reimbursement for taking apart the lights and taking them everywhere. So we are trying to work with places like Glenarden, Allant, even the Main Street School, and also corporate sponsors. We're trying to get people like Crystal Run, Healy Brothers, Zareski to help sponsor events like that, so that in a perfect world we'll be able to have a regular season and simultaneously have shows going places. So, for example, during Crimes of the Heart, Einstein could be playing at the Walker Public Library, or it could be playing here, or Main Street School, or wherever. So we'd like to have both a tour, if you will, and something happening, and then sort of rotate them out. So Einstein, because we did it so many years ago, I just keep using it because it's the example everyone else uses. We wouldn't be doing that in-house and taking it somewhere else. We'd like to switch up a little bit so that people could come to the library and see Einstein and then come to our theater and see something else. So we want to keep it varied for people as well. So we kind of are juggling all of that.
So you wouldn't be able to mount one, say, at the high school that already has lights and a sound system and.
I mean, we could,
can
but
ask.
we would have to coordinate with them, their concerts, their music. I mean, especially the spring semester, there's assembly, there's all sorts of stuff. And since we already have our season dates, it would be, if they have something the same weekend that we're doing a show already in the theater, it's so hard to coordinate, especially with the school systems, because every year there's a Christmas concert, and every year there's a spring musical, and it runs for so many weeks, and their schedule is not as flexible because their space is also limited. They have one auditorium. They don't have two. If they had two, it would be a lot easier, but it's also trying to get the school on board with us as well, and the reaching across the aisles and shaking of the hands. So we're getting there, but that's our future. That's our plan. But for now, we're doing 5 shows. I do have all the dates and the times, etc., etc. You guys would like them.
Gee, for library-sponsored shows, you would think it'd be good to have a library liaison at the school board to talk about things like that.
That would be handy.
Huh.
Oh yeah, not
as
it.
needed.
Yeah, as needed, yes, of course.
I do not volunteer for that. So I think that's everything. So hopefully we'll see you guys March 1st. It's runs about 90 minutes. It's gonna be very short, I promise.
Great.
And no intermission. And then you guys can go check out the trivia and spend a whole day in Goshen. And in between, you can go eat lunch at Limoncello, Delancey's, or wherever if you just want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, whole Goshen day. Be fun. So I'll also be helping to MC the trivia night later that night. So you get to see a whole day of me, which is really the exciting part. So that's it. That's all I got. Any questions? Any queries, comments, concerns?
It's very complete.
Ooh,
Yeah.
thanks for that. Good work.
Thank you.
Oh, and Facebook's awesome.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
going well. That's all I have on that. You're welcome.
Unfinished business. The new library initiative. I don't know if everybody's looked at the architectural proposal from Paul Mace. Can we discuss any questions, points to raise, whatever? I thought it was a pretty good document. Just a couple of my notes on this. On page 2 under design, I was wondering, and these could be questions to ask him when he comes next week, about any of the buildings chosen would have some probably known operational costs, whether it's the energy costs, staffing costs because of the layout. And I think it's worth bringing up if that's going to be part of that phase to come up with the operational costs for the 2, I think it's going to be 2, maybe just 1, building that is recommended. Because I think we need to know that. We need to know if, operational could be staffing as well, but we need to know what that would be with either of the designs that are going to be presented. That's one thing. On page 3 under design related at the bottom, BRMA will prepare 2 to 3 conceptual floor plan schemes, at least one for each site. That's with the assumption that he actually comes up with, we're looking at this building as, you know, modification to turn it into something that would work. It might come down to, this building's not gonna work. I mean, there's a good chance. And there would be no need for a conceptual floor plan. I don't know how far he's going with that. You know, it might come out at the onset that this is not gonna work, and
I think
there's
we
no-
had that discussion with
right?
him when he was here,
okay, but
that it was mostly why this won't work was really the goal for that.
then that would not be necessary to do. Put the
But the work.
time, money,
Well, right, the
into
lion's share of the money
that.
should go into the other portion of it.
should go into what would
Right,
work.
and I think he understood that when
Okay.
he was here.
Yeah, certainly if we can rule out this building because we can. we
Yeah, it
can't
was
do parking.
ruling out sort of work he was going to do on, you know, why
Yeah.
this won't work.
Bless you.
Bless you. And my question on page 4 with the design related costs, whether that would include the cost, I think it would, but I just wanna make sure, for a new building campaign, the marketing materials and whatever else is involved. I don't know. You know, I just wonder if there's costs that are not part of this proposal that we'll have to then come up with, such as for marketing materials, advertising, whatever.
Good question.
Because I remember the last go around, there were a lot of glossy,
Mm-hmm.
you know, publications that probably cost a bit of money. And we are scrimping as is.
Yeah.
Well, some of that might still be on us because it's just in the lines above, referendum campaign assistance.
Yeah,
He mentions, you know, reviewing, coordinating with, but he doesn't mention them producing outright.
right.
Not
Some
producing,
features.
but you know,
If they prepare
I
the
don't know if
graphics, it says
if
right.
all what is gonna be suggested in this, in what he comes to in the end, will include those costs, and don't wanna be blindsided having to find the money for
Having
doing that
additional
part of
costs
it.
above this.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mhm. It doesn't look like he will.
And on page 5, 3.
He says he will provide cost analysis for promotional materials.
Right, but it doesn't say he's
And-
gonna provide the material, he'll prepare the graphics and the slides.
Yeah, it
and-
probably won't include the cost.
No. it
Probably won't, but you know,
But all
to
the
have,
prep work, and we just send the prep work to a printer is what it looks like to me, that's how I understood this.
yeah, I just wonder what we'll
Yeah,
have
I mean,
to
he's
pay
an
out of pocket
architect,
for
not a
that.
printer, so, yeah, I have no idea, but I
I
think you
know
could
you-
probably shop it though.
Yeah.
No, it seems like the kind of thing you could shop, and
Yeah.
he would have done all the design work for,
Sure,
but not the actual production of it.
it's something just keep in the back of our minds as a possible hit to our budget.
Sure.
But on page 5, you know, there's item 3 about traffic studies, environmental impact statements, stormwater drainage studies. I guess he'll tell us what's gonna be required in the end. I just wonder what we will have to do. And who would do that, and what costs there might be. So, just a point of concern in my mind. And that's it.
What's that? Did you wanna?
No, I've looked at it, I just.
It seems very comprehensive, and I feel we'll be in good hands with them.
And the attorney reviewed this, correct?
Yes,
And made,
did.
Made
And
so,
changes.
They made the changes.
Yeah,
before the
regarding,
changes.
regarding like faxing costs, but. So, you're just gonna meet, what do we have to do?
Motion to
I don't
accept it.
remember, I
Yeah.
want to accept this.
Right, okay.
As written.
as written.
Is that one of the things in the new business?
Yes, it's the
So-
first thing in
Yeah.
unfinished business.
I'm sorry, just one last question. Is this a payment schedule also?
Yes.
Mhm.
That is a payment
did say
schedule,
that.
so it's not total lump sum.
Right, we're not writing the check for the full
I
amount right
don't
now.
know where
Okay.
that is, but.
Page 4,
Yes, page 4.
the bottom of page 4,
Okay.
Mhm.
that's us. Because there's no dates in terms of payment schedule and that kind of thing. You see the
Yeah,
bottom of page 4?
yeah.
You know,
I
is
think
that
it
67,
looks
is
like
that,
it's-
I thought there was a percentage, somewhere in this about payments.
I don't remember seeing one. You know, once he's in receipt of this signed agreement,
Right.
is he expecting,
Check, yeah.
or does it have to come with $6,700 attached to it? And do we know where that's gonna come from in the budget? I don't remember seeing one, do you?
I haven't seen it.
No.
No.
What am I looking at? Project, okay, page 5 towards the top. The project will be billed monthly as a percentage of completion of each of the above referenced 4 scopes of service.
Right.
So,
Right, so we'll get monthly invoices covering whatever percentage of that work they did, and that's the total amount we're all agreeing on for that work.
and we do know where the funds are coming.
So 4 months? No,
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 it's
just
monthly.
as it's done.
As it's
Yeah.
done, yes.
Okay.
Because it's gonna take a while for them to
Right.
get together and, like the public
No,
assurance or whatever.
I
it's
think
called,
we're
it
looking
doesn't
at
take a while.
about a year, are we not?
Right, so we're
So-
talking 200 and change a month, or roughly different amounts, but over the course of a year, it's
Hmm?
2,000. 2,000.
Whatever. I wasn't sure we
I'm sorry, it's
were
not
going.
Given the discount,
It's okay.
yes.
Yeah, right.
Printing costs or something. So,
200 a month each.
okay.
Thank you.
So any further discussion on the proposal? Okay. I hope I have the verbiage right. Can I have a motion to accept the architectural services proposal?
Do-
Uh,
I know there's quorum here, but do we wanna do it as a full house, or do we need to do it this month,
I think
this
we
month?
could do it as a forum,
A
I mean,
quorum's
quorum.
Quorum?
Yeah,
Okay.
form.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're good.
Alright. Didn't wanna neglect anybody's input, so. Okay. Sure.
Can I have a motion to accept the architectural services proposal, preliminary design services as submitted and revised on the 7th of January? To sign off on that is that good enough? Who will make that motion?
I'll do it.
Ellen, Mary,
And Norma.
and Norma, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Quiet.
2 X.
Okay. Now we have a bunch of action items in the new business. Is,
I have some resolutions for you. Tax cap.
It's new library initiative.
yeah.
Yep.
What
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah, what was the new library initiative?
Initiative?
Are we-
Well, that's
this.
it.
That's it,
this.
okay, so it's
the action
redundant.
item
And
I don't
nothing
think there's
other.
anything else to discuss on that.
Right, it's just a recurring line
Yeah,
item.
whatever is going
Right.
on.
Carol, what's the date again? Well, that,
April 2.
After the election.
Yeah,
But the date had already been set.
right. Oh, we're good with that.
When do I have to get
So
my
you need to read this
signatures in
tax
now?
cap resolution.
I'm up for
first
election this
item.
year, right?
Okay.
March.
You are?
I am, right?
Hmm?
We're up to for re-election
So what do I
this
do,
year,
just
aren't we?
read
No,
it?
you're
Yeah,
not.
Do we
this
have
is
to
for
make?
the
Am I
You
not?
just
upcoming
got
and then
elected.
They vote
No,
on
I
it. This is
didn't.
just that allows
Oh,
us to
nine.
exceed
Oh,
the tax
wait.
cap in the event that we go
And
over.
then
And
You
we're
ran
talking
again?
A through
Oh,
D?
yeah.
And
14, no.
Do
Right?
all
Yes.
four
8, 11,
at
and,
one?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the
I thought it
resolution.
was-
Last
Oh.
year,
Let us know.
I didn't, no, I didn't get elected last year.
Resolve that the Board of
no, I'm
Trustees
trying to go back the year before.
Oh, wait.
Because last year I got
2014,
re-elected,
15,
Uh-huh.
and the year
By
before
at
you
least
two got
60%
no,
of
the
the
year
board required.
after.
Right.
Oh,
So this is
wait.
14, 15.
You
and
don't
it's-
know.
Oh, 8 was the first year, so,
What?
08, 09 is one, 9, 10, 10, 11, then I got re-elected in 11,
And
right? So,
we have to
about
make
11,
a
12,
motion.
12,
Yes.
13,
Seems like you
14,
just-
I
Tax
thought.
cap resolution.
Right.
Seemed like it.
Yep.
Cause you,
Been
cause
there
I'm
forever.
running
Is it
again
very
next
long?
year.
I
think
That's
I
right.
thought I was up
I
this
understand.
6 years.
I
This
did
is
not look it up. I believe that Jim-
Is it Jim?
We don't know
Yeah.
yet.
I thought it was,
Okay.
whatever.
Last time.
I just don't
Okay.
wanna miss it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it would be good
It's
to
like,
get
damn.
signatures on time.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm gonna go read through some of these resolutions and make a motion to accept it at the end. The first one is the tax cap resolution, where there are A through D items to read out. A, whereas the adoption of the 2014-2015 budget for the Goshen Public Library and Historical Society may require a tax levy increase that exceeds the tax cap imposed by state law as outlined in General Municipal Law Section 3-C adopted in 2011. And whereas General Municipal Law Section 3C expressly permits the library board to override the tax levy by a resolution approved by a vote of 60% of qualified board members. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Goshen Public Library and Historical Society voted and approved to exceed the tax levy limit for 2014 through 2015 by at least the 60% of the Board of Trustees as required by state law on January 14th, 2013. No,
No.
2014.
On January 10th, 2000.
January 10th.
February
February
10th,
10th?
February
Today?
10th.
February
That's when
10th.
it was set.
I was just reading, I wasn't thinking.
February 10th.
2000.
14.
Let me go back. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Goshen Public Library and Historical Society voted and approved to exceed the tax levy limit for 2014 through 2015 by at least the 60% of the Board of Trustees as required by state law on, that's what it says, February 10th, 2014.
13.
No, it's not.
No. February 10th, 2014.
Are we doing that for, this for today? They're,
I'm sorry.
right?
Right.
Resolving
Right,
that today, right?
resolving it
Correct.
today.
Can I have a resolution to accept
A motion.
a motion to accept the tax cap resolution as stated?
Go for it.
Bernie.
Bernie, could I have a second?
You looked at me for fine.
Because you're looking at me.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. The next,
Okay, is the election date, did you say settled? I have it on here.
wait, then this,
We can do
Go ahead and do it? Okay, so we can go ahead
wait,
and do it.
this should be 14 through 15.
Budget fiscal year 14, 15.
Okay,
Okay, so
and this should be
14, same thing.
That's just a copy of what
From last
transpired
year.
last
Yeah,
year.
sorry, I'm making a little bit up to date, but
okay. The next one is the budget action item.
Yeah.
Budget for fiscal year July 2014 through June 2015. Resolved that the budget draft with the 2% increase be presented to the Goshen taxpayers for the operation of the Goshen Public Library and Historical Society for the fiscal year 2014 through 2015.
right there.
Period.
Period, no more.
Don't read anymore?
That's it, you got it.
You're right.
Okay.
Can I have a a motion to accept the budget action item as stated.
Everybody's doing
Nor-
No.
Norma and Nancy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
The election date?
it. Oh, that's coming up.
Oh.
Okay, let me change
Wait. That's
the second.
I love this. Election date, that needs to be done, Carol, as well?
Motion.
Okay. That's gonna be April 2nd, so.
Okay, April 2nd,
Yes.
Early this year.
and this second, 14, okay.
2 weeks.
And that is the election date being April 2nd, 2014. Resolved,
That's it. Make a motion to accept that date.
Accept
can I have a motion to accept the election date for 2014? Norma, Mary, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Look at the election.
For second, 14, and that's it.
Yeah.
The next one is the clerk of the election. Resolved, is that right? That Carol Cullen, clerk of the board, be appointed clerk of the election for the April 2nd, 2014 vote. Can I have a motion? Mary, second. Bernie, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No.
Now, the next one needs a little discussion before he does it. Who wants to be the chairman? Because that changes every year. That's the person that has to get there at,
7:15 in the morning.
I can do that.
you wanna do that? Okay,
Sure.
so it'll be Ellen Mary.
Thank
That's
you,
what she was
Mary.
last year,
You're
so.
welcome.
Okay. So, chairman.
He's not gonna be here for the food. I'm sorry.
No, that's, you're
No,
good.
it's always I'm a step ahead of you, I'm sorry.
Okay. For the chairman of the election, resolve that Ellen Mary O'Brien be appointed chairman of the election for the April 2nd, 2014 vote. Can I have a motion to that effect? Nancy, Norma seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No.
Sorry about that. I
Oh,
meant to
that's
do
all
that.
right. Then we're done with that part.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Food for fines. Discussion topic.
We'll take the food. We'll take the food. Move on.
We'll take it.
Well,
We'll take the
Well, we
food.
can't.
I mean,
We can't?
No, we're not
no,
allowed.
there were,
By
We are not
whom?
allowed, but it's, fines collected by the library are considered supplemental tax revenue. And we cannot use tax revenue as donations for charity. And
This is
it's
via
as
our
for
lawyer,
our
right.
lawyer.
we would
Because
love to,
We wanna help,
But-
so I think what we did last time, or what we proposed to do last time, was for the month have a box in, so people could bring food and we could be a collection site for the food pantry. But when this issue came up, it was a couple of years ago,
Yes.
when we first stopped it, when the issue came up, we ran it past our lawyer because Frank made sense, like, oh my god.
yeah.
So we ran it past our lawyer, and he turned out to be right, and he's still right even if he isn't here. So it's still, but it's still Frank was right, and that's the end of the discussion because what's that?
Nothing.
No, it was
He
just
right.
He was right. Frank was right, and I
Of course
said,
he
Frank,
was right.
Frank is off
Smart
somewhere
man.
going, see, I told you. He's
Smart man.
watching us and clapping. But yes, Frank was actually right, and we're not really allowed to
Yeah.
do what we were doing. And our lawyer looked into it and said, yes, Frank was right. I didn't say it that way, but
Yeah.
what he said was tax fines collected for the library are supplemental tax income, and we can't donate them.
Right, and this is being discussed because it was brought up to certain
It was brought up again
members.
from an outside
Why aren't
source
we
who was
doing
like,
it
why are
and-
we no longer doing this? And the person who objected isn't here anymore. Well, the person who objected on legal grounds that were in fact correct, and that's why we're not doing it anymore, not because of the person who objected. So it wasn't. So yes, it's no longer something that we can do. But we
Right.
can be a collection site if we want to
Sure.
do something like that, or, you know, and I don't know what else we could do.
Do we do that? Have others approached us about leaving collection boxes
They
or
do.
anything else
Yeah.
here?
The Lions and the
And-
Yeah.
food pantries,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
okay, right. So
Right, so we
Okay.
do community stuff for every, well, that's the other thing.
No, it's
If we
good.
do food for fines, then we're now, because we like this
Favoring.
charity,
right.
right, then we're now favoring charity with tax money and you know, where do we draw the line? And just because everybody's okay with that charity doesn't mean that it's really okay to donate tax, you know.
Yeah.
It gets to be confusing, so no, we won't be doing that anymore.
Okay. Bernie, you have something to bring.
Yes, I'm the bearer of good news. Some time ago, we had Girl Scouts in who were going to collect crayons
I wish I
and
had some.
and
Sorry.
make art that we would be able to lay out and have an art auction of some kind. Well,
What?
the girls are all in
High school.
high school now. The girls are all active in other areas, and it was difficult to keep the troop together. So the troops actually were coming to a close, and in lieu of the art auction, they've taken the crayons. They collected many boxes of crayons, and they donated the crayons to other sources, House on the Hill, and I think mainly all House on the Hill. But they did opt to, in discussion amongst each of the troops, they opted to close their bank accounts and close the troops, and they were splitting their funds between us and the Goshen Humane Society,
Wow.
which is so each of us are getting equal amounts together. So I have a couple of checks here, one for the large amount and one for the remainder. Together they're in the range of $157 and $157 donated from both troops. So.
That's great.
And you'll receive an email.
And I'm sorry, what troop is that?
This is Girl Scout troops number 449 and 155.
So
449 and 155?
Yes.
both from Goshen?
Yes.
And, okay.
Yeah.
Was it a progression from a certain level of Girl Scouts, from 449 to 155? But it's two separate groups.
449. One of them is older, slightly older girls than
Yeah.
the other one. They were at I know because my girls were in each of the troops, and so one was 2 years older than the other. And then there was talk about merging the two at one point because one enrollment had dropped off of
Yeah,
one,
yeah,
or
sure.
they had gone to others and gone to business. So. It's a shame because the Girl Scouts are a worthy
Sure.
worthy group, and it'd be good to have girls stay in it. But they stayed in it for quite a long time and got a lot out of it. So
Yeah.
just other interests, more, and a lot of academics too. There's a lot of academic strains
Filling their time.
when you get to the high school level.
Yeah.
So, but
That is great.
And the amount again was?
both checks together are $157 and 18 cents.
Do we know who to send a thank you note to?
If you want a written note,
We should
Yeah.
send a
yeah,
thank
well,
you.
you can send it to my
Sunshine
wife.
send it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and yeah, as I said, she sent this to you and me, and then printed it out. So you should have it in your email as well.
Okay. Debbie.
I mean, you can respond, or one of us can. We'll follow up to see how best to say
Sunshine?
thank you.
Just
That's
a
what
card,
Sunshine
yeah,
does,
thank you.
have them send a thank you card. Whenever Jim, I hope nothing serious happened with this,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, but Sunshine committee, that's what they do. He does,
Okay.
Actually,
on
present.
behalf of the board.
Does Matt want to take the checks?
Is there any other new business? No.
We're done.
Okay. Proposed agenda items for next month's meeting. Is there anything
Oh,
anybody wanted to add?
did you mention the library advocacy day?
I said to. Did I say to? It's in here.
It's in your
It's in our
report.
report. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's coming up, right? It's February 20th is the deadline to sign up for a
Yeah.
bus ride.
And what is
I
it?
think.
Oh, 12.
Yeah, you have to do it through RCWS's site. It's $12, I think, but I know you're working it. No, it's hard to get
Cost
to.
isn't the issue.
Yeah, but it's open to anybody who wants to be a library advocate. It doesn't need to be somebody working for or with the library. They can be a regular patron
Right.
and have a free day to want to see
The bowels.
the bus ride
Are
into
you-
Albany and back. Yes.
You going up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have any good tax forces?
I don't know, but
No.
For next month, we should have
the
the,
privilege of the floor.
for next
um,
month's agenda, the follow-up with the meeting with Paul
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
That should be on, and the cell
Well,
phone
that would be on the
policy.
the committee
Oh,
reports.
definitely, yeah.
I-
Just
I
gotta
think
get that on
so.
there.
What?
I think that Paul, yeah, it's been so scrambled because of the snow. I believe that they like to actually follow up by appearing at the next general meeting. So we have this first discussion. I'm not positive, but I believe, because I talked to Megan
Okay.
last time around, and she said, oh, yes, and then we'll be at your meeting on February to,
Right.
so I believe that's what they,
So it'll be
that's the
March.
general idea. So I'll check with them.
So we'll have the mid-month meeting with them.
Right, and then,
they'll
And
come.
then they'll come to
to
a
the-
March meeting on the tenth.
I believe so. I'll check.
Okay.
It sounds to me like that's how it works. Also, Keith, if you want
Yeah.
feel free to, if you have, you seem like you have a pretty good grasp on that. If you wanna send me any other questions to bring to them, feel
Alright.
free to email me and I wrote down some notes, but if you have some other
Okay.
stuff, let's think about it.
So if they're coming, we should have a very lean agenda to give them whatever time they need. So we
Sounds
can-
good.
Cause
Yeah.
I remember last
Yeah,
time they said they had a
well-
3-hour drive back,
Yes.
so I know we're paying them, but still,
Yeah,
But
right, it's still
it's
considerate,
human.
you know? Yeah, right.
Anything big for next, that you can think of? I think we took care of
No,
all
I
of
think all
the,
the big stuff, we did
machinery
the
for the-
budget, we did
right.
all the.
No, we're fine.
okay.
Okay. So we need to go into executive session.
No.
No.
It's just
Alright.
So we can go home, is that?
Can I have a motion to
Quick,
adjourn the
make it.
meeting at 8:48,
Sounds good.
whatever.
8:44.
I'm Mary,
And Norma.
Norma,
All in
all in
favor?
favor?
Aye.
Alright.
Alright.